Good morning, everyone. St. Louis County deserves a government that works, roads that are repaired, parks that are open, 911 calls that are answered, paychecks for county employees that are providing all of these services, and they deserve this without chaos. That's our job. And right now, instead of focusing on that job, the county council is attempting to do something that's never been done before in the history of the county, and that is seizing executive authority while the county executive is still in office. This is unheard of across the state or across the country. Imagine if Congress tried to seize executive authority every time the president went on a trip out of the country on business. What you would get is chaos, and that's why we filed a lawsuit this morning. This is not the first time that the council has tried to seize executive authority that they're not legally entitled to. It was just last year that the council spent over $500,000 of NFL settlement funds to put a proposition in front of county voters to give them the authority to fire department directors. The county voters rejected that proposition by a 2-to-1 margin because it was bad government. And that's where we are today. The council is now trying to accomplish through an ordinance what county voters rejected a little over a year ago at the ballot box. This Sunday, Mayor Spencer and I will be traveling with a delegation from St. Louis on a trade mission to London on the inaugural direct flight from St. Louis to London on British Airways. Regular direct flights on British Airways from St. Louis to London was made possible by funding through the St. Louis County Port Authority. I will be representing St. Louis County on that trip as county executive. And I'll be reachable on my cell phone throughout the entire trip. The Board of Aldermen is not working to usurp Mayor Spencer's authority on this trip because it's a ridiculous act of chaos. So how do we get to it? In September of 2025, the council passed an ordinance requiring the county executive to notify the council chair anytime he leaves the country. That ordinance also reports that the council chair will assume the authority of the county executive when he's out of the country. I complied with the notification requirement. On April 10th, I sent notice to the council chair in the days that I would be traveling with this delegation out of the country. I would be available by cell phone, and I identified my chief of staff and chief of operations as points of contact while I was traveling. Yesterday, I met with the chairwoman to establish processes and procedures, working guidelines while I was traveling. And she told me that she intends to exert the authority of county executive the moment that I leave the country. We can't have two county executives. The charter is exceptionally clear. The county executive's authority, changing county executive's authority requires a vote of county residents. It can't be changed by ordinance. This proposed ordinance is not constitutional. If the council chair assumes the authority of the county executive while I am still in office, the chaos is immediate. Competing directives to contracts, to leases, to staff will generate legal disputes that will harm the residents that we are elected to serve. This lawsuit doesn't happen in isolation. We've watched a consistent pattern of the council attempting to exert authority that belongs in the executive branch, including council members are pressuring staff, have been pressuring staff to sign a lease that wasn't competitive, financially competitive for county government. I stopped $3 million from being appropriated to a politically connected farm outside of the normal processes in county government. And the council continues to make decisions that create chaos, such as sporadic and episodic budget appropriations and errors occurs that may cause furloughs or disrupt the department's ability to meet payrolls by the end of next month. Rather than correct those mistakes urgently, the council has suggested that employees spy on each other and report employees that aren't working hard enough. The council is attempting to run St. Louis County by creating chaos, to creating confusion about who's in charge, confusion about what's really going on. And the people of St. Louis County are getting tired of this. And I hear it every day. The law says that the council's role is to adopt a budget, to appropriate any unexpected funding, to approve or disapprove contracts negotiated by the executive branch. It's the county executive's duty to sign those contracts, to manage day-to-day operations. That separation of powers is not a technicality. It protects the taxpayers. It's the foundation of accountable government. We didn't want to go to court. On April 10th, I sent a letter to Councilwoman Days establishing clear and written guidelines on how the county would operate while he was traveling and how to preserve continuity of government. The framework was reasonable and fair. All I asked was that she sign the letter, and she refused. That refusal left us no option but go to the courts for clarity. My staff has attempted multiple times to find a workable path forward, but we could not reach an agreement. The court must now provide the clarity that the council has so far refused to accept. St. Louis County residents voted on who would be in charge of the executive branch. The charter answers who's in charge. The intentional chaos that's been created by the county government on a daily basis has to stop. People in this county have demanded good government. They don't want to see this anymore. So we're simply asking the court to clarify the law and confirm, so we can end the chaos in county government and we can all get back to work. The residents of St. Louis County have been demanding this now for quite some time. My staff has copies of the lawsuit and the letter, and I would be glad to answer any questions.
Is this really what it takes to punch your passport? You have to file a lawsuit? I mean, I suppose you don't have to go on this trip. If a judge does not give you clear permission, or if a judge says no, will you still go?
So the question is, if we do not get clarity on this question of who's in charge of county government, like every other jurisdiction in the state, like our country, who's in charge of county government when the executive leaves the country and is available by cell phone, if we don't get clear direction on that, then I can't leave. We can't have this kind of chaos. We can't have competing directives on signing leases, on signing contracts, on staff, on department directors. We can't have conflicting direction and we can't have the legal quagmire that would develop after that.
So you're willing to skip the trip. What's the worst that happens if you don't go? What's the downside?
The downside of not having county executive on this trip is that we don't have the chief elected office of the largest jurisdiction in the region there promoting St. Louis County on a very important historic moment when we're making our first direct flight to London. It's a missed opportunity.
If you do go and Chair Days assumes the acting county executive, I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
Well, I would say that past behavior predicts future action, and I can't go down hypotheticals, but there's a lot of things that are in front of county government right now. We've had a challenging budget environment for 20 years, and we've pieced that together with belt tightening and one-time funds. This is the first year where we've decided that we have almost $200 million in county reserve, and we're not going to use $6.5 million of one-time funds to keep normal operations of county government. So I don't know what would happen. I just know this is an unprecedented time where we've had budget challenges for 20 years. We pieced it together with one-time funds. We have $200 million available this year. A modest amount of appropriation needs to be released so we can continue normal operations of county government. So I don't know what would happen, but I'm not going to risk further disruption of county government if we don't have clarity on this.
Do you think the department heads could be fired?
I think that there could be a lot of attempted uses of county executive authority. They spent $500,000 of NFL settlement funds to try and get the authority to fire our department heads, so I don't know what would happen.
You alluded pretty heavily to the potential deal to move county government to the old Northwest Crossings. Did you get some sort of tip off that Days was going to sign that deal in your absence? I mean,
Here's what I know. I don't know what would be attempted while I'm gone.
Yeah.
All I know is that past behavior predicts future performance, and that there was hearing a month or two ago where my director of transportation was berated for not agreeing to a lease that was not in the best interest of the county financially. And we're moving forward with those negotiations, and the most recent proposal is competitive, and we'll talk about that. But we're not going to enter into an agreement with someone based on we pick them. It has to be good for St. Louis County.
so you didn't get any concrete evidence, if you will, that she was going to do this?
There is no evidence of any predicted action. There was past behavior and a very clear statement from the council chair that she intended to assume the executive authority when I leave town.
Did you bring those concerns up with her in the Monday meeting? And if so, what was her response?
We didn't go through the list of hypothetical disagreements in policy that are apparent to everyone who's following county government. We didn't go through that list.
But did you bring up any,
She said
headquarters?
very clearly that she intended to assume the responsibilities of county government when I am out of the country.
You've been banging this budget drum. Times are tough, cuts are coming, and financial austerity or some sort of conservative thinking is needed or new revenue. Or you may also make mention of the Port Authority, some other government agency possibly picking up the tab on the travel here. But just generally, I understand that's not a part of the county budget, but is it a good look to leave the country on the taxpayer dime while talking about
I
budget cuts?
understand how you might have misunderstood how this funding comes together, so I'll clarify that. The St. Louis County Port Authority is contributing an incentive package to British Airways for a 2-year agreement to provide direct flights to between St. Louis and London. My ticket is not paid for by the Port Authority. My ticket is supported by arrangement through the Economic Development Partnership, and it's not supported by government funds.
So there isn't taxpayer dollars for it then?
No, my trip's not funded by taxpayers.
What about the lawsuit? What is the lawsuit going to cost taxpayers?
The lawsuit, I don't know what this lawsuit costs taxpayers. It won't cost them nearly as much as the chaos that would ensue if there's any lack of clarity over who's county executive and what the policy direction of county government would be.
And what does this signify about where the relationship stand between you and the council? I mean, we heard a lot about the debates here over the past year or so. This seems to take it to a whole nother level. What do county residents need to take away from this?
Well, what you take away from this is that 90% of the time, things go well and you don't hear about it. When they don't go well and we don't agree on something, it can be a real mess, especially if the policy direction from the council is to not use available funds and maintain normal operations of county government. When I see funds that are available in reserve that need to be released so we can operate county government normally, I'm going to speak up about that. All the other differences of opinion we have are policy differences that we hash out. But this is a big deal. We're talking about furloughs because we don't have enough money in some departments to meet payroll, and it's a mess. And I will recognize that some errors were made in the council's budget process, and to give them credit, they've recognized those errors, and they've even proposed legislation to fix one of them. But they all need to be fixed. We need security for our county employees. Just last year, Forbes magazine recognized St. Louis County as one of the best places to work in America. And we want our employees to feel safe. We want them to feel secure. They enjoy their job. They like working for county government. But we don't need this uncertainty about our ability to meet payroll. That's not reasonable.
What's the timeline for this? When will you know when is your trip and when will you know to decide?
There's a hearing on the temporary restraining order tomorrow. So we'll have a hearing tomorrow. I don't know when the judge will decide. I hope the judge decides in time for us to know whether or not I can go with the trade mission.
We've all seen politicians be out of the region, their jurisdiction, even the country sometimes when disaster strikes. The optics there are never pleasant for the politician in question. How bad would things have to get, God forbid, something were to happen here for you to turn around and come back?
Well, I'll turn around and come back if there's a natural disaster, like anyone traveling in an executive branch. If there's a natural disaster and it's not being handled in the community easily, and there was a communication gap between my emergency folks and people in the community, then I would come back. I mean, I was traveling out of the country during a tornado, and I was on the phone with my staff when they were in the tornado shelter telling me the tornado was coming. And I was on the phone afterwards, and that was all managed just fine.
When was that?
Last summer,
After they passed this ordinance?
before.
But did you veto this order? It just passed last year.
No, I
right?
didn't veto it. It passed, I think, 6-1. It was, the ordinance is fundamentally flawed. The veto on this was, didn't matter. They would have overridden it anyway because it was about the power structure between the council and the county executive. And at the time, the council chair told me that she wasn't very enthusiastic about it. Wasn't close to it.
You say,
And that's why I didn't really worry about it. I thought if I have to travel, then we'll sit down and work out an agreement, and either we'll work it out or we won't.
you say you're not effectively absent because you can conduct business over your cell phone, but what if the Wi-Fi's out on the 8-hour flight?
So the definition of effectively absent has been established by the Supreme Court 30 years ago for executives who travel. No one has tried to do anything like this for local government, but it's well established in case law. For the governor and lieutenant governor, it's well established at the presidential level. If the Wi-Fi's out, my staff can handle it until it's back on. It wouldn't be any different than if my cell phone went dead during an emergency and it took people a few minutes to find me. We'd figure it out.
Did you have to ask any court officials to get permission to leave the country?
No.
The other,
You mean postcard? No, no one's restricting my travel because of the postcard case, Mark. That's not a thing. But I appreciate you asking about
I had
that.
to ask.
I think you, as much as anybody, understand what that's about.
Well, but there's still, I mean, procedures there for leaving the country and getting permission.
Yeah, not for that.
Okay. One budget-related question. I wonder, I don't, you may know the contents of Board Bill 156. I believe it would allow the county to contract with SSM to provide doctors and specialized medical care at Department of Public Health Community Health Centers. It's been around, the proposal's been around since last year, hasn't been approved yet. Do you expect that the Department of Public Health could lose doctors anytime soon, or is this a casualty of the budget?
The relationship with SSM and the county health department to provide doctors to take care for people in our jail or in our public health clinics, that relationship is 10 or 15 years old. And it's just been ongoing for as long as I can remember. It was ongoing when I arrived in county government 12 years ago. It's up for renewal, and the renewal's been delayed. It's on the list of budget considerations, and if that contract isn't renewed, then there are patients in St. Louis County who will lose their doctor through the county safety net, because that doctor takes care of a lot of St. Louis County people.
Did the council?
The essence of the argument here, and in this case, that even though you're not here, you're not really absent because you're still accessible. Is that kind of the long and short of that?
Okay, the question is, what is the essence of the argument? The essence of the argument has been well established in case law for 30 years, and that's effectively absent. In fact, the original ruling said if you're available by fax, you're available. We've got a lot of technology besides faxes now in 2026, and effectively absent is well defined. In fact, the county charter says when I leave the county, when I'm absent from the county, that the county council chair is in charge. Does that mean when I go downtown or I go to St. Charles County, I'm not in charge anymore? There's definitions behind those words. They're well established in case law, and the definition is effectively absent. And if you're available by phone, it's no different if I'm as available in London by phone as I am in South County.
Do you think at all about the long-term precedent that this might set? Where some county executive in the future might take this and just start jet setting around?
Well, Mark, I'm not worried about excessive travel by the county executive. This is a busy job, and I don't even take very many vacations because I got a lot to do here.
Does Chairwoman Days wanna go? Maybe she could represent the county.
We haven't talked about that.
Do you think the council knew about this trip in September when they passed this, or was it more like when you took your mission last year, I think it was, that you were gone for a while?
I don't really have any understanding of the intention of the county council when they proposed this legislation, or if they were planning ahead to disrupt this. I don't think the council plans ahead to disrupt things as much as it may appear. I think it's just a lack of understanding of how county government works and the unintended consequences of some of the ideas, or the unintended consequences of some of the ideas that people in the community bring them. And they get, in government, we get brought a lot of ideas that aren't very good, and we are responsible to sort through those.
You mentioned the importance of having a person in your position over there for this big, moment. Are there any other tangible takeaways that the rest of us get from your presence there? Are you bringing jobs back? Are you discussing some kind of economic development? Is there anything tangible that you can deliver in this trip?
I think it's pretty well established that when chief executives travel to other regions or other countries, that it gives people who live in those countries confidence that that person is willing to work hard to bring their companies to our region, to make sure their companies are successful, if they will come to our region and bring jobs or open a branch. And there's a lot of foreign companies that are in St. Louis, and we do a lot of business with London, especially around life sciences, especially around plant sciences. We went there 2 years ago on a trade mission with the partnership, and I talked to a lot of people who have operations here in St. Louis County, and they wanted to know what St. Louis County is like. They want to know what it's like to live. They want to know what the schools are like. They want to know what our workforce development pipelines are like. They want to know how quickly government will work to make sure they're successful and cut the red tape so they can expand their operations here and can create jobs. They want to talk to someone who's there who can reassure them that government will work for them to make them successful in St. Louis. And that's what I did last time I went to London 2 years ago.
Do you care at all to get involved in the politics or the endorsement discussion about who would replace you?
No.
You won't be fielding questionnaires or surveying the pool of candidates?
I know everybody that's running, and I think they're all qualified, and the voters of St. Louis County will make a decision about who they want to be county executive, and I'll be glad to work with whoever is elected to make sure they're successful. I think that's important. I think the next county executive needs to be supported, and they need to be successful, and they need to be given the benefit of the doubt when they get started.
You said there was a recent proposal from the Northwest Plaza owners that was competitive. So where's that at in the process?
We'll be talking about those proposals for temporary government headquarters. We'll be talking about those proposals tomorrow. The county council has a hearing. And regardless of how we got here, I'm not at all impressed by the way that lease negotiation has rolled out. When I made that statement before, I didn't like the way our Director of Transportation was treated in closed session of the county council a couple of months ago. That wasn't rational or reasonable or with any sort of general practices of St. Louis County. And when I see tactics deployed that are outside of the usual customary practices, I'm alarmed. Regardless of how we got here, if the best proposal comes from Northwest Crossing, then I would support taking it. Because at the end, we have to get the best deal for St. Louis County and not get too wrapped up in the behavior of people that we do business with.
It seems like you've done a lot more of these lately. I don't know if maybe
More of what?
all press conferences, more talkative lately.
Well, thanks for sharing with the community. We have a crisis. We've had a problem with our budget for 20 years. And now all of a sudden we've decided that we want to appropriate available funds to continue normal operations of county government while we work towards a long-term solution. The long-term solution is the use tax that's on the August ballot. There's no reason to disrupt normal operations of county government. Already we had to close the West County office. We had to close government offices on Friday all over county. We've had to close operations at 3:30 in all of our county offices. We've closed 2 of our 4 swimming pools. We've canceled JV blasts. We're cutting things in county government. We're reducing services because of the budget, and now we're talking about furloughs. We've never been in this position before because we've never had to. We have available funds that just need to be appropriated and released so we can continue normal operations of county government while we wait for a long-term solution that is on the horizon.
In the city, every time the earnings tax comes up, every single elected official in the city bands together, unites, and says, we've got to have this thing. Do you ever look over there and get a little envious of the unity?
Well, we have unity on most of what we do, and we don't have unity. It's very widely reported. And I'm going to be sure that I get my perspective out there because I think this is a dangerous place to be in county government. When we have available funds, they just need to be released. We can get back to normal operations of county government, and we can look towards a long-term solution, and then we can look towards addressing the long-term challenges that are in front of us, including a permanent home for county government.